the Prophet ﷺ would be surprised by something which we refer to as at-tafa'ul. At-tafa'ul, the best way that we can really explain this is to be optimistic. Right? To always have a positive outlook on things, to anticipate something good, to anticipate something positive. If you have this attitude and you have this mentality, you will be saved from illnesses and diseases. Because your mind is in such a psychological state that it always sees the positive and anticipates positive things. Whereas if you're always negative, right, it puts your mind or your body into a state, like a psychological state that makes it prone to disease. So an indication of this in the Sharia is where Qatada, he said that he heard Anas radiallahu anhu say, indeed the Messenger of Allah he said, قال لا عدوى ولا طيرة ويعجبني الفأل. He said there is no such thing as adwa, as the concept of an infectious disease in its own right. And nor is there any tiyara, this belief in these omens where the birds flies over you and it goes in a direction, it means something bad's going to happen. This thing doesn't exist. It's not real, it's not true. But al-fa'al is something that really surprises me. And so I said, what is al-fa'al? Al-fa'al here is like a good omen. And he said, it is al-kalimatu tayyibah. Al-kalimatu tayyibah. It is a good word, a positive word. What is being referred to here is basically, it's like when you create optimism, when you create good hopes, when you use speech that basically puts good hopes in people. You say positive things to your children, right? This is what is meant by al-fa'al, right? Optimism, good positive words, encouragement. So basically you create a character, a personality that always sees things positively, always has good anticipations, always had, an optimal, is optimistic in his or her outlook towards things, right? Not negative. This is what is actually meant here. And an example of this, an illustration of this, is the hadith in which Khabbab bin al-Arrat, he complained and he said that we complained to the Messenger of Allah about the hardship that would come to us from the mushrikun. And so the Messenger of Allah, he told him about the people who would come before and how they would be put into a pit that was dug for them, and a saw would be put on their heads and they would be sawn in half, and they still would not renounce their religion. And he said, indeed you are a hasty people. So here the intent here is to create like a positive, optimistic type of feeling in a person, right? To make him be positive instead of negative, to be anticipate goodness and rather than be negative. And so this is the kind of thing that we are talking about. And in a way also, if we think about this, there's when basically when you are optimistic and happy and you think positively of things, there's something that the doctors today they speak about called the placebo effect. They call it the placebo effect. It means that you give someone a medicine which is really just water or a sugar pill, right? And you tell them, yes, this you'll be fine, you'll be cured. And then they give a control, another group, actual medicine, and they find that the group which has the placebo, which wasn't given any real medicine, they actually have a positive effect as well. So how can this make sense? They were not given the actual therapeutic the element. And so this comes down to this is what they call the placebo effect. And really what they do is they use it to discount, right? This is where their experiments are designed. But in reality it is an inherent faculty in the body by which bodies are healed. Ibn Taymiyyah mentions this. In fact, Ibn Taymiyyah mentions this in the context of, he was asked a question by someone who said that the doctors are telling me that only alcohol or wine or the flesh of the pig are going to cure this particular disease. And so Ibn Taymiyyah responded and he said, whoever says that any specific illness can only be cured by this specific thing, by way of habit, by way of custom, then this is an ignoramus, who does not know medicine, let alone, who does not know what Allah revealed, who does not know Allah and His Messenger, let alone knowing medicine itself. And then he expands and he says, because cure is not in any one thing habitually. Rather, it is in many things. It can be in the Quran. It can be in medicinal treatment. It can be in the inherent faculties and strengths and abilities of the body itself. It can be in so many things. And so here, the whole discussion we are having here of being optimistic and being positive and saying good words and things like that, all of these do have a tangible effect on a person being cured of a disease, right? So this is connected to this issue of optimism and being in a good psychological frame and a good psychological mind. And so all of this is part and parcel of basically good health, the mental, psychological elements of that as well. So these are 8. From that we can see the beauty of the Sharia of Islam and how it has come with the most complete and perfect of guidance. In fact, I don't have time to read from the statements of Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala. He says, his medicine of the Messenger, I'll mention it briefly, is not like the medicine of the physicians. For the medicine of the Prophet is certain, definitive, emanating from divine revelation, the lantern of prophethood and perfection of reason. As for the medicine of others, most of it is conjecture, presumption and experimentation. Then he goes on to mention many other things as well. The point being here then is health is a lifestyle choice, right? Depending on what lifestyle you want to live will determine the types of diseases you will get. If you want to follow the medicine of the Prophet ﷺ, then you need to live your life in accordance with what we've seen in terms of these guidelines. If you live that life, if you live and you choose that lifestyle, then your diseases will be very simple, very short-lived, and they will be cured by the simplest of treatments, because that is from the way of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So really it's a lifestyle choice. You have to understand this point, that you might think, why are there only simple cures in the Sunnah? Why don't we see all these sophisticated? And that's because the type of life you live will determine the types of diseases you get, right? So if you want to live your life opposed to these principles, and you abuse yourself and your body in your diet and lifestyle, and you develop diabetes and cancer and heart disease and so on and so forth, then you say, well, how can I treat this with a prophetic medicine? Well, hang on, this is not right, because the prophetic medicine wasn't made for people like you. It was made for people who follow the prophetic guidance all around. In fact, let me. There's a beautiful. I didn't want to really miss this from Ibn al-Qayyim. This is important for us to get this point. If I can find where it is. Basically, the point Ibn al-Qayyim makes is that he makes an analogy between the Quran, that the Quran can only heal a certain type of heart, the heart of the believer. It is shifa for the heart of the believer. The Quran will not cure the heart of a hypocrite. The heart of a munafiq cannot be cured by the Quran, even though the Quran is a shifa. It is a healing for that which is in the chests. And then he analogizes with that and says, likewise, the medicine of the Prophet will only be beneficial for certain types of bodies, those who follow the prophetic guidance. As for the one who does not, then the medicine of the Prophet is not because there's something deficient in the Quran that it's not healing the heart of a munafiq. It is because the heart of a munafiq is diseased. And likewise, it is not because the medicine of the Prophet is deficient that it's not curing a certain body. It's because that body is diseased. It doesn't want to live in accordance with the prophetic medicine in general. Right? So this is something that you really have to understand. That if you want to follow, if you want to use the prophetic medicine like honey and hijama and all the various other things which we find mentioned in the sunnah, zamzam, dates, cow's milk, and whatever else that are mentioned, which are specifically tied, the black seed, to curing and curing of disease, then you have to live the lifestyle. Right? You have to live the lifestyle. You have to abide by the things that we mentioned, and you have to study the issue of like nutrition as well and food as well, and how in a modern environment, how can you ensure that you are eating with quality and in quantity, right? So you have to make that choice, and you have to go ahead and study how you can implement that.